Hello, register audience. Time to quit VMware? Have we lost our minds? We'll find out in the next half an hour. Who's going to help me find out? Well, Scott is. Hello, Scott.
Hey Tim, how you doing?
Good, thank you very much. Glad to have you on this. Now, I know we're going to be finding out a lot more about scale computing as we talk, but for people who don't know it, if you could briefly tell me what scale computing does and what you do there.
So we'll start with myself because that's easier. I'm VP of Sales and our global channel chief. So anything from a sales perspective to channel perspective falls under my purview. And scale computing itself, I'll give you the quick, I guess, elevator pitch. We're a cloud to core HCI solution. So basically being able to tie everything from the edge back to the core infrastructure in on premises under one single management console, give you that cloud-like simplicity and performance at a fraction of the price in a more automated fashion.
Good to hear. Right, so let's have a look at what we're going to be talking about today. Now, our first point, the gripes of VMware users. Now, we're assuming that because you've turned up for this, that at least some of these you're going to recognize. And we're going to be talking about what scale computing might have to offer you instead and how you get from there to a potentially different future, because that's not a trivial point either. But first of all, Scott, we have to discuss why we are even here. And I think that your argument is really that VMware's losing its mojo.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of on some unprecedented times right now, and I think that's why I'm the most excited about doing this interview here because there's things that happen in the market that you only see happen, sometimes once in your career, and for us, we probably see this across different industries once every decade. But paradigm shifts that happen, right? There's major paradigm shifts that happen that are changes the market completely, and there's drivers that lead up to that. And you can see, since the inception of computing, there's always been kind of like 2 decades worth of a trend in the industry, starting with everything kind of being centralized, decentralized, and then the last 2 decades we've been most used to is the virtual infrastructure, the private and public clouds, the data centers that we've all built best practices around, and that's become a mainstay in the industry. Everybody's familiar with VMware being the leader, the de facto solution in that. And you get to a point in a market where market becomes mature and almost commoditized, where there's less innovation happening. And when that innovation starts to slow down, that's when you typically have like a cash cow in the market, someone like a VMware. Whereas if anybody took a marketing class back in high school or university, that cash cow it owns majority of the market share, and they're growing at very small percentile, singular percentile year over year. So from an investment landscape, that's a very attractive very attractive acquisition to go after because they own majority market share and they can now shift their focus to a certain higher profit portion of the customer set that they have. And that's what we're seeing in the industry right now. That's that paradigm shift happening. And it's not just the acquisition of VMware that's causing this. Like there's actual technical drivers behind all of this, right? We've commoditized, we've built all the best practices around the data center, and you look at company A versus company B. There's pretty much you're going to get a standard de facto solution of what you're looking for in the data center. The differentiation now comes outside of the data center. The differentiation is the evolution of technology that's happening, and that's IoT, that's 5G, that's AI. AI is probably the biggest buzz term from an analyst perspective. I talk to anybody, and the first question that they ask is, how is AI being consumed, or how are you addressing AI? Huge buzz term for every organization, probably everybody that's listening to this interview. And those are the technical drivers that are shifting everything outside of the data center, because now we're seeing everything outside of the data center more data is being generated, and it's not at like 2 times the amount of data. It's an exorbitant amount of data that's being generated outside of the data center. So now the shift is more, how can we build this cloud-like environment everywhere that the data is being generated, on premises, in the cloud, building that hybrid infrastructure. And we see the shift that happens then when you look at the market factors like an investment or acquisition. when that acquisition happens, that's when you know that there's new innovation and that new innovation is shifting elsewhere. So it's scary times because it's like, well, I'm so used to doing these things over those last 2 decades, but it's also exciting times as well because that means there's innovation happening elsewhere, and that innovation is probably something that you didn't know you needed yet. You've been comfortable doing what you've had in the past, and now these other drivers in the market are going to force you to look at other alternative solutions, and those alternative solutions might be just the solution that you're looking for in the long term of it. So very interesting times in the market right now, and while scary, also very exciting because this is an evolution that's happening and something that you don't see too often in your careers.
So we've got two things colliding here, effectively. We've got as you say, the technology where most data is now being created at the edge. But that has also happened at the same time, and maybe linked to the fact that after a couple of decades of growth, VMware has now been acquired by a different company and maybe moving to a different strategy. And that's really what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about both of those things together, aren't we?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of factors to take into consideration for everybody. I've been with Scale for, I mentioned, nearly a decade. I think I mentioned at the start, but I've been with Scale for about a decade now. And so I've seen this all. When I came, VMware was at the peak of its popularity.
Yeah.
And past decade, what everybody, the de facto solution was, well, you're always comfortable knowing what you know, and everybody knows VMware, so that's the solution that you want to go for. Now that market has changed significantly, and there's more considerations to take into account because it's not the same product or the same company that you once knew.
Well, first of all, let's talk about this acquisition that happened. Broadcom bought VMware, didn't it, a couple of years ago now? Yeah.
So they technically acquired them back in November, back in 2023, November 2023, and obviously that was like an 18-month process. So I mean, both answers are right. It takes a long time for a big acquisition like that to go through. Yeah, and that acquisition, you're familiar with Broadcom from other things that have happened in the past. It's other companies that they've acquired, whether it's Broadcom or their former CA Technologies. There's been other shifts in the industry that are very much mirroring what's happening right now in the virtualization world, which is like Symantec, for instance, when they were acquired. And a lot of the customers that we're hearing from is their fear is the same thing seems to be happening that happened with Symantec, right? And the same thing that happened with previous history tends to repeat itself, and we're kind of already seeing that come to fruition. And leading up to that acquisition in 2023, it was kind of, analysts were expecting this to happen. They were kind of raising the warning flags that this might come to fruition and something you should be cautious of. But then once it happens, and immediately coming into 2024, we saw a lot of quick changes that were happening within Broadcom that are affecting customers and partners alike. And it all starts with when a company like this acquires a cash cow. Typically, what they do is they're trying to increase their profit margins, right? They're trying to increase the bottom line, and to do that, there's two ways. One is to increase your biggest cost, and your biggest cost is typically your labor force. It's usually sales and R&D. And the first thing that we saw was layoffs happening, right? So they're going to cut a lot of that overhead cost for them. And the second thing is the subscription model, push everybody to that subscription model and kind of increase prices there. And we've already seen that come to fruition in the short period of time that after the acquisition happened into 2024. We saw that all come very, very quickly into fruition. And the reason being is, this is something from Broadcom's quarterly financials, so it's public knowledge. VMware makes 70% of their revenue off of 600 customers, right? So Broadcom's focus is now that 600 customers. So you think that means they have 300,000 plus customers, something in that range. Don't quote me on the exact number, but it's around there. That's a lot of customers that are now going to be left looking for alternatives in terms of the support that they're getting, or maybe the price that they're getting is increasing, or just being able to get the solution itself is going to be a lot trickier than it was when it was so readily available as just VMware as a company. So there's some very unprecedented times, and we're already starting to see, we've already seen the impact of that in the market, and only expect that to come more and more to fruition as the years go on, right? The thing with infrastructure is that it's not something you just move away from, right? It's an investment, and it's not something that is just like, let's move away tomorrow. It's often a long-term investment. So you look at what analysts are saying about how this is going to affect the market. There's the 12-month period where they expect, a third of that 300,000 to look for all the alternatives and most likely move away to an alternative, and then another third in the next 24 to 36 months. So that's a lot of different people out there that are looking for things to do, right? That's a lot of market that is not being addressed anymore because of this acquisition. So it's definitely some changing times and some big shifts that are going to happen, because it's a lot of revenue that's going to be shifting from one company elsewhere in the market.
Yeah, I mean, recent history shows that Broadcom is very effective as a cost cutter. I've got a statistic here from Sanford and Bernstein saying that they managed to cut 60 or 70% of the costs for Symantec and CA after acquiring them. But of course, that amount of cost cutting doesn't happen by changing nothing. Things have to change. And as you say, being able to focus on your most profitable accounts is an effective strategy from their point of view. However, if you're not one of those 600 accounts, you might be wondering what's next.
Yeah, and listen, Broadcom's smart, and they know what they're doing. They're going to make their shareholders a lot of money. What this does for the market, though, is it says, hey, it's time to start opening your eyes to other alternatives that are out there, and that's exactly it. What is next? So it brings about the time for VMware alternatives to start talking about VMware alternatives, or it brings about time to start talking about those VMware alternatives. But what we're seeing right now with that acquisition is in the short period after the acquisition itself, we saw basically Broadcom saying there's going to be no price changes, and they held true to that statement that there's going to be no price changes. But the difference of really what happened was that as things bundled together, got broken out. So while prices didn't necessarily change, you have to pay for a lot more now. So we've seen some terrifying price increases on renewals that go to I've even seen everything's in like the 10x of what they were paying last year. And that's because they're trying to focus on each individual silo and increase the profits of each of those silos, as opposed to having it all bundled together. So it's a great strategy by Broadcom to focus on the areas that they need to focus on, but it's going to impact a lot of people that were consuming maybe they're consuming it in a different fashion than how they're going to be consuming it now with the new pricing model, and it's going to affect a lot of people on what they're looking from a renewals perspective. So you want to go for a solution that kind of can incorporate everything that you're doing into that one solution, as opposed to paying for all these additional features that you might not be using as it is right now, that you have to now pay for.
Yeah, now clearly, if VMware are seeing this and they're thinking, well, of course Scott's going to say that because he's our competitor. I noticed that you have the Forrester link up there, and I would encourage anyone who's interested in hearing what an analyst has to say. Well, Forrester is basically saying more or less what you're saying as well. And so don't look at it now, look at it later. But that's the analyst perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And nothing that I'm saying is something that I'm creating out of thin air, right? I'm regurgitating things that we've been doing, obviously a ton of research on this, just as all of the customers and partners out there are doing. It's time to be doing the research to look into those alternatives. It's now more than ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do have some research on this, don't you, from as a customer research about what they're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously over the last that since we knew that acquisition was starting to happen, when we were expecting what's going to come, we've been talking as the VMware alternative for a while. So there is some different research that we've put together on that VMware alternative where we went out to VMware customers and we just asked what their general what they want from an alternative solution.
Mhm.
And if you think back to like what happened over the last few years, we've kind of gone through pretty drastic times, right? We went through a pandemic and we went through an economic downturn, and that changed the way that we consume IT. It changed the way we consume the technology internally, and it made a bit of a shift in what some of our needs. So we were kind of we advanced technology quite a bit, and advancements of technology, IoT, 5G, all of the AI, all of these things, those are all technologies that now are going to, in some way or form, land on the IT department. So what we saw in general from the consensus of VMware users is that they're looking for a less complex solution. So they're looking for a solution that helps them consolidate. They want to be able to consolidate all of these different technologies that they're now incorporating into like a future-proofed infrastructure that can obviously scale up and scale out with them as their needs continue to grow. Because with every organization that I've talked to that's incorporating any of these new technologies, it's an ever-changing thing, and you don't know what the future holds necessarily. You don't know what new business application might come down the pike for you, or maybe you do know, but you don't know how that's going to impact your existing infrastructure. So you need something flexible, something agile, something that's not that complex, so you can focus on those new business applications, because those are really driving the outcomes for you, right? You need the infrastructure to just run and be autonomous. So the complexity was the big thing. Obviously, downtime as well. While if you're using everything with a solution like VMware, you're not going to see significant downtime, but to eliminate all of that downtime, it comes with a high cost. So they want a solution that has that elimination of downtime, that resiliency baked into it, without having additional fees that they have to pay for it to get all of these other features that maybe were built for the large enterprises out there. And those large enterprises need all of those features, need all that functionality. But what about everybody else? Everybody else needs something that they can eliminate. They need those 5 nines of uptime, right? So downtime was another key thing that they talked about in that study. And just back to that complexity thing, in today's world, you think when VMware first came out, technology has changed and advanced so much, but the foundation of that technology never really changed, right? So there's an inherent complexity built in under the hood of that architecture of it. So solutions that are more modern solutions, they've addressed that complexity to make a solution that's more simplified, so that you don't need to be a VCP. You don't need to have all these different certifications just to run the system. Having advanced training and knowing the system obviously is a great help in better understanding how you can utilize it within your organization. But they want a solution that just runs, that you don't need to pay a ton of money to get certified and get it all set up and have to manage that solution on a daily basis. They want a solution that they can easily set up, that has the built-in automation to run itself, so you can focus on those advanced tasks that just advance your company and increase your operational efficiency, or whatever you're trying to do, change your consumer experience, any of those things that these new technologies are enabling people to do. And if you kind of look through all the study, one of the other big ones is actually was this kind of comes to the administration of it all, but it was like patch management and being able to update everything under a single click. So without having to manually have to figure out, so if I want to update this software layer, is it supported on this hardware and then this hardware? And if it's not, what do I have to do? Do I have to upgrade some of this hardware? What happens is you sometimes get that domino effect is, okay, I need to upgrade this for this new feature or for this security risk or something of that nature. Oh, but it's not supported on this other layer that I purchased independently of it. So then you get this domino effect where everything now has to be changed, or it becomes instead of a minimal investment, a pretty significant investment. So that's some of the things that a modern infrastructure solution can address them, and that's exactly what this VMware alternative survey that we put together suggests, and it's something that another thing to look into after this interview.
Yeah. Now, hey, Scott, though, people will be saying, yes, I know all of this stuff. We've been complaining about it over lunch for as long as VMware's been around. But you know what? They're there. They've done the job. And it's infrastructure. It's really important. And we know that VMware's always going to be around, or we assume so. It's been around for our entire careers. This, as the sort of challenger, then scaled computing has that mountain to climb, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the one question I always get is why scale? Why now? That's the question that, obviously we're seeing a ton of increased marketing traction because of all the VMware alternative stuff. Being on the front page of Google is something that a marketer dreams of, and definitely market conditions help drive you to that front page of Google and Google News and such. And so that's great. Obviously, market conditions are one reason why you'd want to shift, but scale computing, we've been in the VMware alternative from the start. We launched in 2012, and we launched at VMworld as that VMware alternative. I would say we were trying to address the need for a market that there was a large need for that in the market as it is, that we're looking for that VMware alternative, customers that wanted that built-in resiliency, customers that wanted that operational efficiency. They wanted to eliminate their overhead with having to manage the system, and they just wanted to reduce their costs overall, whether it be on the upfront purchase or on the ownership of the system. So we've been around since 2012, launching at VMworld, getting kicked out of VMworld because we were.
I was going to say, yeah, it sounds a little bit rude, to be honest.
A little. I mean, there's no better way to make a big splash, but no marketing can pay for the market conditions that today brings, right? The time for looking into a VMware alternative is now, because it's coming down to really cost, right? Cost and that operational efficiency, right? You need a company that's focused on you. You need a company that cares about your needs and that is focused on your market that you are in. And that might not be VMware for you anymore. And that's a market that we've always served. We have global customers. We have customers of all shapes and sizes, from the Fortune 500s to a small SMB customer that maybe only has a terabyte, and everything in between. That's just looking for a good on-premises solution that provides that cloud-like simplicity and performance, but most importantly at a fraction of the cost. And it's never been easier to go to the board or go to management and say, we need to look into an alternative now. Look what's happening in the market, and look what my renewal price is on this side. And we've always been there. We've always been around. We're tried and tested. We have tons of systems out there. We're not on version 1.0, right? This isn't version 1.0 and you're going to be testing it out in the field. This is version, I think we're on 9.2 as general availability right now. So we've got a customer out there in the exact same situation that you are in, that has deployed this system. They fell in love with this system. You could speak with that customer, or you can look at the thousands of reviews that we have online that say just that about the product and the support.
This is the thing, though, isn't it? Because you go to management and say, we need to look around for someone else, and there are these people called scale computing, and management turns around and says, are they any different? Are they any better?
Absolutely. And obviously, customer reviews are always a good place to start. And you can go to scalecomputing.com and look at our customer reviews, and you can sort by vertical, you can sort by industry, and you can find someone just like you. And we can always put you in touch with someone that's similar. But you don't usually go to the vendor first, right? The typical buyer cycle is you do your research far more than it used to be 10 years ago, right? It's now, by the time you get to the vendor, you probably know the 2 or 3 solutions that you're looking into, the 2 or 3 alternatives that you want to go with. So looking into something like industry recognition, industry awards, and everything like that is always a good starting point. And for instance, with CRN has this annual report card that they do every year. And what they do is they categorize different product trends. So like hyperconvergence, converged infrastructure is one of them. And they have, this is just a peer review that happens, and they rank all the different solutions that are in there. So everybody that would fall under converged, hyperconverged would be the typical names, including a VMware. And then they rank them on all of these different categories. And then they give it, how much do I care about this category? So like an importance level. And the most important one is always product quality and reliability. And I'd say one of the biggest things that I hang my hat on is last year. So we've won this 3 years in a row now, maybe 4 years in a row at this point. But last year we won it as the highest rated product quality and reliability within our category, but we also across any category that year. And in fact, across any category all time for the last decade plus that they've been running this. So if there's one thing that you want to know that gives you like some confidence in like, is this solution do what they say? It's listening to your peers, looking at these different reviews, and nothing says it better than having that highest rated product quality and reliability baked into the solution.
Talking about the solution, what do you do that's different?
A good question. I think the first thing you got to do is think of what does what did we do differently from the architecture that was already designed from what everyone's familiar with, right? So you think of the traditional environment, and it's we'll talk about that 3-2-1 environment where really VMware grown from. You've got a hypervisor sitting on top of some host servers. So the three is the host servers. Could be more. Sometimes larger environments could be less in smaller environments. Redundant switches, that's the two switches. Again, same thing, could be more, could be less. And then at least one shared storage. Again, same thing, could be more, could be less, or could be less, could be more. And in an environment like that, what we tried to redesign was that environment was really built for the largest of enterprises. It was built for those 600 customers, right? It was built for them in mind. They've got an individual team for each one of those silos. They've got an individual team for the hypervisor, for the compute, for the networking, for the storage, and they need the granularity associated with each of those teams. So I'd like to, I'm big into racing, and I kind of relate it to like F1. They built it for the F1 cars, the teams that have analysts on every single component within the car architecture. And that's not your most common consumers, right? Those 300,000 customers, that's probably 600 of the customers. A lot of the customers need a solution that doesn't have that level of granularity and doesn't have that independence. It needs to have a solution that just works all together as a one. So we wanted to redesign from an architecture to layer. So we wanted to start at the foundation of it all to eliminate the vendor complexity. Because like I talked about that domino effect, each individual layer has its own logs. Each individual layer passes information through to each other, but it doesn't see into the other layers. It doesn't say that, hey, there's something wrong with your storage. It says something's not wrong with me. And you want to just get on a call with all the vendors and be like, hey, what is wrong with my solution? But you ended up getting those phone calls, and this probably a lot of people will do a head nod as they're listening to this. It's like, yeah, I've been in that scenario where I just needed to get to the root of the problem. We wanted to eliminate that complexity that started with the infrastructure, started with the architecture of the design. And that's really what stems from the difference of what we do. We took those three different layers and we combined it into one single solution, one single software layer, where the hypervisor layer integrates directly with the storage layer, which means in the middle there, this is where that AI comes into play that we talked about. We have an AI ops engine, which we call AIM. It stands for Automated Infrastructure Management Engine. That's the AI that's that's building the autonomous infrastructure for you. It's building that automation under the hood so that it's understanding what's happening at the hypervisor level all the way to what's happening at the storage level. And if you have something go wrong, you just call us. You call us and we can identify exactly where something went wrong. We know it's, oh, you've got a bad drive, swap out this drive. If you got the drive from us, we'll send it to you. If you got it elsewhere, you're just going to get a drive replaced, and it's hot swappable, very easy to do. So the main thing that we tried to do differently was take that traditional architecture and modernize it. Modernize it instead of just putting a facelift on and adding, another layer on top of everything. We wanted to take it to that next step and redesign it how we would have, considering we launched at the peak of VMware. We wanted to redesign it. If we could, using the technology we had at that time, what would we have done 10 years ago differently to make this more of an autonomous infrastructure, build in the technology that we had available to us at that time? And I'd say that's the core difference. It's that all-in-one solution from a management perspective, obviously using different components under the hood, but to an end user's perspective, you want it to feel like it's a cloud, right? You just log in and you spin something up, or you log into a VM, and that's all you should have to worry about. You shouldn't have to worry about the back end of it.
You're claiming low TCO there. How big a difference is there?
That's a good question. So it depends on where you're talking. You'll see our pricing strategy is obviously to be more cost effective than any of the other solutions out there, from the outright purchase, but also the long-term ownership of it. So you're going to see anything from in the smaller size, it could be 10 to 20% against like a simple VMware solution. On the larger side, you're talking about a vSAN or other HCI solutions. You're going to see something in the, depending on the size of the configuration, it could be 20 to 40% of a difference. And that, I'd say that number, that's on the upfront side of it. I'd say that number grows as you look at the actual life cycle of owning that gear, and as you look at the operational overhead and expanding, scaling up, scaling out, renewals, all of that piece, that difference will grow substantially over the typical 5-year life cycle of an infrastructure.
Mhm. And what you're saying here is some of the advantages that you get is because this isn't just a whole bunch of different applications all knitted together.
Yeah, it's purposely designed to be a more automated architecture than used to, and it's not just a software layer put on top of it. It's designed from our software is called Hypercore. So the software gets installed on every drive within every server within the cluster, however big that cluster may be it a single node or be it many nodes in a cluster. And it basically it's like the iPhone, your smartphone, I should say, bringing together all of these different technologies into one, but presenting you with a very intuitive UI to use. So under the hood, very complex, very advanced, very automated, but presented to you, it's meant to be simple because it shouldn't be that difficult to run the infrastructure. You shouldn't have to go click around, figure out where things are, see an update, and have to take a course to get your certification updated after that update happens because you don't know where that button was that it used to be. It should be all intuitive, and that's what we set out to design. And I'd say you compare that to the other HCI solutions out there, and we did a good job of not only being significantly more simplified than a traditional 3-2-1, but being even more simplified than other HCI solutions out there, including vSAN and the other alternatives.
And your platform's not designed for just for small installations because, as you say, a lot of VMware now is so pervasive that it goes from the largest size organization to the smallest. You're not trying to just take that small size organization market.
No, absolutely not. No, so it's I'd say other than those 600 customers, that's what we're designed for. You see that our solution itself is called Scale Computing Platform, and within the platform there's Hypercore that we just talked about, and Hypercore is that traditional data center software. So it's that HCI software built in disaster recovery functionality as well, and it's a good fit for anything from the SMB up to the high end mid market. Where you're looking for that automation and you're looking for a solution that runs. So we have customers that are a single terabyte in their data center. We have customers that are 12 petabytes in their data center. It really comes down to the qualifying question of what do you need in that environment? Do you need that automation? Do you need to simplify? Do you need to be able to build something on top of it? Is what you're looking at is the application layer, whether it be through VMs or containers, and you're looking to create more autonomy underneath that application layer, which I think is most organizations out there, right? The infrastructure can be seen as a cost center if you're just managing the infrastructure. What you're really trying to do is provide an infrastructure, which is the foundation for growth within your business at the application level. So we fit anything from that SMB to that upper mid-market data center size, and then from the other big play is around that IoT and the AI that we talked about and distributed enterprises. We don't only just work well in the data center. The big thing is that we work in the data center and we were born in the data center, but we've grown outside of the data center. So we can address everything from the smallest of infrastructures, where you've got just 3-4 VMs running at a manufacturing floor or a convenience store, a gas station, anything like that, but you want to be able to manage all of these different workloads centrally. We can manage that using the Fleet Manager, which is the second component of the platform. So Hypercore and Fleet Manager, basically Hypercore is that on-premises software that brings the automation and you can manage everything locally on-premise, obviously remotely as well if you have a VPN connection. But Fleet Manager gives you that visibility of the true cloud, being able to manage wherever that infrastructure resides, being able to centrally manage everything, centrally update everything, centrally deploy everything without having to touch it if you needed to. Infrastructure as code to build an even more automation around the solution so that you can build that operational efficiency at all of those remote locations. And I think that's the key differentiator is that automation, cost-effective data center side of it, but we address not only the data center and scaling up in the data center, from that terabyte to the petabytes, we also can scale out all the way down to small systems like the Asus NUC, for instance, or the Simply NUC, a system that runs in the palm of your hands. You can have an infrastructure that you can literally hold in the palm of your hands, like about the size of an Apple TV, and that can work right beside the same use case as that customer that has 12 petabytes of storage, all managed under one single central console. So a ton of different use cases. And really it comes down to that hybrid environment is, where's your data best run? Is the data best run on premises in your data center, or is it best run off premises still on premises at a remote location, and integrating with some sort of cloud application, whatever it might look like, all under a single easy way to manage all that data, and data residing where it's most performant and most cost effective.
I imagine when you're having a conversation with your potential customers, when you really see the fear in their eyes, is when you start talking about the migration. They might be dissatisfied with what they got now, but crikey, the idea of moving away from that, changing something that is so fundamental to everything that they do in IT. How do you manage that?
I mean, migration is definitely the first thing anybody asks. I mean, we have kind of two promos right now. We have our rip and replace promo, which is just a way to make it more of an attractive licensing conversation so that you can move away from your existing VMware environment at a price that is, affordable, in line with what you were expecting, that you had budgeted for this year. And then the other side of it is our seamless switch. And all of this comes with the free migration. So that the intention is it's affordable to purchase the infrastructure, and it's seamless to make that switch for you. So we can if it's a partner that wants to do it, we have different ways of handling the migrations, be it third-party applications like OpenText has their Carbonite Mood license, which we can leverage. We also have built into the UI a drag and drop functionality, so you can import a VMDK just from literally dragging and dropping into the UI. So very seamless. You can upload if you needed to upload. Tons of different ways to do it. There's also a lot of open source ways, but the main thing is that this isn't the first time we've done it. We've done it with thousands of customers globally, and we're there to help every step of the way, be it helping a partner, educating that partner, enabling them to do it, or being the outsource, and we can handle it all, from if you're doing a single VM to we've got customers that come to us and say, I've got 600 VMs. Can you guys help us migrate all these VMs? We don't have experts that do this. You guys do it all the time. Can you guys just do it for us? Absolutely, we can do that. We've got staff to do that. We've got services to get that all sorted out for you. So I'd say if you're interested, know that there's an option there for you. We can talk through that in more detail. If you're interested, there's a QR code, or there's you go to scalecomputing.com too. The very first thing that pops up is this promo that we're talking about. Reach out to the team. Let's get engaged. Let's figure out what we can do. Every environment's a little different, so I can only talk to so much general without being too ambiguous. But reach out and let's have a conversation and see if this is a good alternative for your organization.
Basically, the key to this is there's no one way to do it. If you want to do a little bit and expand, or you want to do something that's more big bang, whatever it is like that, people have done it that way.
Exactly. You're not alone. There's someone out there that you could even speak to that's done the exact same thing that you're doing right now.
Okay. And so we're getting near the end of what we're talking about. What's the next thing for anyone who's come along to this because they are they're curious about alternatives to VMware, and I think maybe they want to get something going? What should they be doing right away now? Where should they start?
Yeah, I mean, start with the conversation. Let's talk about it. Reach out to us. Obviously, go to scalecomputing.com, do your research. There's tons of great information there, vertical use cases, case studies, pricing that's on the website as well. There's also, if you want to have a meeting with us, we're trying to make it as easy as possible for you to make the switch. And the easiest way is to just incentivize you with something for having that conversation with us. And we are running a promo as well that's look at us as a VMware alternative. Let's have a meeting around that. If this is something that could fit in your organization, we'll give you a nice Fitbit just for having that conversation with us. And it's something that I'm trying to get my marketing team to send me, because I think it would be a fantastic resource to have in the around the household.
If you want to measure your heart rate whilst you are doing a migration, then yeah, this will help it.
You know what? I would love to see someone measure their heart rate of managing their infrastructure currently with VMware, and then make the switch over to Scale, and then tell us what that heart rate looks like after you've made the switch over to Scale, because I guarantee you're going to sleep better at night knowing that you got this solution deployed.
see, yes. Okay, we've discussed this before. Yeah, right. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, however you want to use it, this is all interesting data, and it's actually data I would quite like to see, come to think of it. I don't think I ever probably will, though. But Scott, that's been fantastic. We've got further reading links as well for anyone who wants to find out some more about this. And if you do want us to do some more about this, then if it's an emerging topic that's interesting to you, let us know and we'll do that. But for now, Scott, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate everybody's time, and hopefully you learned something that is interesting for you today.
Yeah, we appreciate your time as well. I appreciate also the time for everyone behind the scenes at the register that helps to put this on. Please let us know what you think, as I said, and please let us know if you want us to cover this emerging story, long time emerging, but it definitely is now, in more detail. But for now, all that remains is for me to say, I've been Tim Phillips. Thank you. See you soon. Goodbye.